The overhead lights flickered once, the only warning before the building's power system collapsed into a chaotic hum. In the dimmed room, Sarah reached across the dining table to grab her cell phone, fingers slipping against the cool plastic surface as she cursed under her breath. The faint rumble of thunder in the distance didn't ease her anxiety. "Zephyr, get over here and help me," she shouted, turning back to their dragon-like alien wife, who was still seated, her eyes fixed on something beyond the wall. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as Zephyr slowly turned her head, dark scales gleaming with an eerie sheen under the emergency lights. The room felt impossibly cold now, even though it had been comfortably warm a moment ago. "What's happening?" Zephyr asked calmly, her voice as smooth and cool as the moonlit waters of their home planet, Lathia. Her fingers curled around the edge of the table, nails digging into the wood. "Power outage," Sarah snapped back, her impatience getting the better of her. "We need to leave now." Zephyr's eyes narrowed slightly, lips curling into a thoughtful frown that made Sarah's stomach knot. She had known Zephyr wouldn't just acquiesce, but something about the look in her eyes was unsettlingly serene. This wasn't just another power failure, it felt different, significant. "Sarah, calm down," Zephyr said gently, her voice soft as a whisper yet carrying over the room. "You know I don't like sudden movements when the storms are close." The tension in Sarah's shoulders tightened as she clenched her jaw. She hated how Zephyr always seemed to sense things before anyone else and acted as if she were in control of situations she had no business being part of. "It's not a storm," Sarah retorted, her voice sharp. "It's a power outage. We need to head to the basement now." Zephyr's eyes flickered with a hint of frustration, but she nodded slowly, accepting Sarah's demand without protest. The way she moved gracefully towards the door, her long tail swaying behind her like the serpentine figure of an ancient Lathian deity, made Sarah's heart race. The calm acceptance in Zephyr's demeanor felt more dangerous than if she had objected outright. Outside, the storm was indeed approaching, black clouds gathering ominously overhead. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the dark alleyways and casting eerie shadows that seemed to move on their own. The wind howled like a banshee, rattling windows and tossing trash cans across the pavement. "Zephyr," Sarah called out again as they made their way through the dimly lit hallway towards the basement door. "We have to hurry." Instead of responding immediately, Zephyr paused by one of the large, ornate paintings hanging on the wall. Her gaze lingered on the intricate design that looked like a map of distant galaxies and strange symbols from their planet's ancient past. Sarah could see her lips moving silently, as if she was reading something that only she could understand. "What are you doing?" Sarah's voice cracked with irritation, her tone bordering on desperation now. "We don't have time for this." Zephyr turned towards her finally, but there was an unusual intensity in her eyes, a sense of urgency and dread that made the hair on the back of Sarah's neck stand up. "Sarah," she started, voice low and serious, "there's something I need to tell you before we go." Before Sarah could ask what it was, the air seemed to crackle with energy, like static electricity. The walls shook violently, a deep rumble echoing through the building from below. A dark stain seeped through the floorboards, spreading outwards ominously. "Zephyr, we need to move," Sarah pleaded, pulling Zephyr's hand towards the basement door, but she resisted, her eyes fixed on the spot where the stain had started to appear. "You don't have the right to touch my back," Zephyr said suddenly, voice cold and sharp. The words were like ice shards piercing through Sarah's mind. "Zephyr," Sarah snapped, struggling to maintain composure. "We need to Levino." The basement door rattled in its frame, the lock clicking repeatedly with a mechanical noise that sounded like a desperate heartbeat. Fear started gnawing at the edges of Sarah's thoughts. She tried to pull Zephyr towards the door again, but the dragon alien woman stood her ground, staring back with an unyielding look. "Zephyr, please," Sarah choked out, fear clouding her voice now. "We have to go." The storm outside reached a crescendo, a cacophony of lightning and thunder that seemed to shake the very foundations of their home. The air crackled with power, and the basement door burst open without warning, flinging outwards as if pushed by an invisible force. A thick, swirling mist poured into the hallway, tendrils of it reaching for them like ghostly fingers. Zephyr took a step back, eyes wide with something akin to fear, but her stance remained firm. "Sarah," she began again, her voice more urgent now. "I need..." Before she could finish her C and tense, the mist enveloped them both, swirling around them in a vortex of darkness and cold. The world spun sideways, lights flickering and dimming as the electricity surged through the building one last time. Sarah felt a sudden chill rush through her body, followed by a moment of complete stillness. And then, as abruptly as it had begun, everything stopped. The basement door slammed shut with an ominous thud, and the mist retreated back into the depths below. Silence fell over the hallway, thick and oppressive. "Zephyr?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. "Are you there?" No answer came, only a heavy silence that seemed to stretch out infinitely. The room was eerily quiet, almost peaceful, but Sarah could feel something wasn't right, as if they had just stepped into an entirely different world where everything moved according to rules she couldn't understand. The air felt heavier, the walls colder, the lingering mist left behind a faint trail of icy residue, and the basement door seemed to emit a soft, pulsating light from beneath its frame. The darkness pressed in closer around them, as if waiting for something. Sarah's heart raced as she turned back towards the hallway, every instinct telling her to run and leave everything behind. But the way Zephyr had looked at her, that moment of connection followed by the strange declaration, those words echoed in her mind now with a haunting clarity. "You don't have the right to touch my back." The cryptic warning from Zephyr still lingered heavily in the air, adding an additional layer of tension and mystery. Sarah knew she needed answers, yet every fiber in her being screamed to escape while she could. But there was no way out now. She swallowed hard, turning towards the basement door, eyes narrowing as she tried to decipher what it was that Zephyr had meant. There was something waiting for them below, and it wasn't just a storm or a power outage. It was something far more dangerous, something that had been waiting in the shadows all along. With each step closer to the basement door, Sarah felt a growing sense of dread and uncertainty, wondering if she would ever truly understand the complexity and danger of her alien wife's words. And still, the pulsating light from beneath the door beckoned them deeper into the mystery, into the heart of something ancient and terrifying. Sarah hesitated for another second before taking a deep breath and making up her mind. She had to know what was waiting for them down there. With that resolve, she turned resolutely towards the basement door and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead in the darkness beyond. The suspense of what was yet to unfold pressed in around her like a dark, suffocating embrace, building even further as she descended into the depths below. The mist and shadows seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the moment when Sarah would uncover the truth hidden beneath the surface, a truth that could change everything about who they were and where they stood. What lies beyond the basement door will define not only their future, but also unravel the mysterious origins of the power outage, the strange behavior of Zephyr, and ultimately the fate of both Sarah and her alien wife. The journey into the unknown is set to be one filled with peril, revelations, and impossible choices as they navigate the labyrinthine underbelly of their home in search of answers. As the basement door swung open once again, revealing a new chapter of mystery and danger, the readers are left hanging on the edge of anticipation. What secrets await them below, and how will Sarah react when faced with the full revelation of Zephyr's words? The next chapter is set to unfold as they descend into an ancient, forgotten realm where nothing is quite what it seems, and every step brings them closer to uncovering the truth that could alter the very fabric of their existence. The dim glow of their lanterns flickered as Sarah and Zephyr stepped over the threshold, their hearts pounding in unison. The air within was cold and stale, whispering secrets from long ago. They moved cautiously down a series of winding, stone steps that spiraled deeper into the earth. Each descent brought an escalating sense of trepidation mixed with anticipation. Sarah clutched her sword tightly, her knuckles turning white as she gripped it. She had felt Zephyr's words deeply, the implications resonating uncomfortably within her. Yet, there was a part of her that urged her forward, driven by the need to know the truth, no matter how painful. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Sarah whispered, though her tone betrayed a sense of defiance rather than genuine doubt. Zephyr nodded solemnly, his eyes reflecting a complex array of emotions. "There's no turning back now," he murmured. "We have to face what lies ahead." As they ventured further down the spiral staircase, the walls grew increasingly damp and moss-covered. Ancient runes etched into the stone began to appear more frequent. Why, their significance unclear but undeniably ominous. Sarah could feel her grip on reality shifting as they entered an area filled with strange symbols and glowing sigils that pulsed softly with a mysterious energy. The deeper they went, the more the air thickened, weighed down by the oppressive history of the place. Sarah's mind raced as she tried to piece together Zephyr's cryptic warnings. They spoke of a truth far more terrifying than any monster or enemy they had faced before. It was a truth about their world, about who they were, and perhaps even what it meant to be human. Suddenly, the lantern light grew dimmer and shadows seemed to reach out from the walls, almost as if the darkness itself was trying to consume them. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she noticed the floor ahead of them was stained with an eerie, glowing red substance that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Something is wrong," Zephyr said, his voice echoing ominously. "We should turn back now." But Sarah felt an unexplainable pull towards the red substance, something urging her forward despite the dangers they faced. She looked into Zephyr's eyes, seeing both fear and determination mirrored there. They were in this together, no matter what lay ahead. With a deep breath, they stepped closer to the glowing red stain, the air growing noticeably colder and heavier with each step. The pulse of the substance grew stronger, its rhythm quickening as if it was waiting for them. Sarah's mind flashed back to Zephyr's words, her heart pounding in her chest as she realized what this might mean. "Zephyr," she whispered urgently, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to be ready. Whatever happens, we must stay focused." He nodded solemnly, the resolve in his eyes clear. "Let's find out what's hidden here and take it down as if it's any other enemy we've faced." As they approached the red, stained area, a soft, almost imperceptible hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing moment. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble violently, and the walls cracked ominously, splitting open to reveal a network of tunnels and chambers beyond. Sarah and Zephyr exchanged a glance, their instincts kicking in as they prepared for whatever challenges awaited them. The trembling ceased abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to stretch endlessly. "What now?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible even to herself. Zephyr's eyes scanned the immediate vicinity carefully before he motioned towards one of the newly exposed tunnels. "Let's go this way," he suggested quietly, his tone firm yet wary. He stepped forward, hesitating only slightly, as if half expecting an ambush or trap. Sarah followed closely behind him, her senses heightened to detect any signs of danger. The tunnel was narrow and claustrophobic, the air thick with a peculiar mixture of dust and something less tangible, perhaps the remnants of ancient magic. As they progressed deeper into the tunnels, strange sounds began to echo around them, clinking of metal, faint whispers, and indistinct murmurs that seemed to grow louder, as if taunting them to proceed. Sarah's heart raced faster with each sound, her muscles tensing for an attack at any moment. Suddenly, a narrow light shone ahead, illuminating a chamber filled with strange artifacts and ancient relics, ornate carvings depicting tales of forgotten gods, scrolls covered in unrecognizable scripts, and objects that pulsed with faint, ethereal glows. The very air seemed to vibrate with an underlying hum of power. "Stay alert," Zephyr warned softly, his hand reaching for the hilt of his sword. "Whatever we find here could change everything." Sarah nodded, her grip tightening on her weapon. She knew they were now standing at the edge of a truth far larger and more profound than anything she had ever imagined. The air thickened around them, heavy with ancient power and secrets long kept in the shadows. It was time to uncover the darkness that lurked beneath the surface, a darkness that could alter their entire existence. They continued forward, driven by the combined strength of hope and fear, knowing that this ancient realm held the key to unlocking the mysteries that had haunted them for so long. Each step brought them closer not just to the truth, but to facing the consequences of that truth, whatever they may be. Chapter 5 Echoes of the Past. As they trudged deeper into the heart of the forgotten city, the atmosphere grew heavier with an unspoken tension. The path ahead was littered with debris and remnants of ancient technology, relics that spoke of a civilization long lost to time and decay. Yet, as they neared their destination, the air around them crackled with a strange energy, an aura of both mystery and foreboding. Elena's eyes flickered towards the horizon, where shadows danced in rhythmic patterns. She could feel a presence watching them, and every instinct told her to move faster. The city was alive with secrets and danger, and Elena knew they were walking into a storm. "Do you see that?" she whispered to Kyla, pointing towards the sky where faint, flickering lights hovered just beyond their reach. "They are getting closer." Kyla nodded silently, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the surroundings. The lights pulsed with an eerie rhythm, and the air shimmered with an otherworldly glow. She could sense the unease in Elena's body language, and knew that they needed to hurry. They rounded a corner and found themselves facing a colossal statue of what appeared to be a dragon, its scales gleaming in the twilight. The statue was covered in intricate carvings depicting battles between beings that resembled Kyla and others that seemed almost human-like. As they stood before it, Eleanor reached out to touch the cold stone, feeling the chill seep into her fingertips. "Look at this," she murmured, tracing a finger over an inscription etched into the base. The symbols were ancient and unfamiliar, but she felt a connection to them. "It's like it's calling to me." Kala bent closer, her eyes scanning the lines. The writing held a story of a dragon clan that once stood as protectors of the city against otherworldly threats. It spoke of a prophecy, a warning about a time when the two worlds would collide again. "We need to keep moving," Kyla said, but Elena was already heading deeper into the shadow of the statue, following the path that led to a set of stone steps carved into the side of a hill. The air grew colder, and the lights above intensified, casting long shadows behind them. As they climbed, each step felt heavier with the weight of their mission. Elena's thoughts were consumed by the inscriptions. She had just read tales of a great conflict, ancient enemies, and the balance between worlds teetering on the edge of collapse. She could feel a deep, unsettling connection to these stories, as if they spoke of something that was happening now, in this very moment. "Kyla," Elena said, stopping mid-step and turning to face her. "What does it mean when the old prophecies come back to life?" Kyla paused, her gaze steady on Elena's face. "It means that the future is at stake, that what happened in the past might be repeating itself." Elena swallowed hard, her mind racing with questions. Could this be why they were here? Was there a way to change the course of history? She thought of the lights above, the flickering specters of the past, and the fear that gripped her heart. "We can't let that happen," Elena said firmly, pushing forward. "We have to find out what's going on before it's too late." The path led them into a chamber carved from solid rock, its walls lined with glowing runes that seemed to shift and change as they approached. The floor was carpeted in a thick layer of dust, disturbed by the occasional footprint signs of recent activity. A large door, partially concealed by shadows, loomed at the end of the chamber, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that told tales of dragons and humans standing side by side. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she stepped closer to the door, her hand reaching out instinctively to touch it. The metal was cold, but resonated with an otherworldly warmth that sent shivers through her body. "Kyla," Elena said, pulling back quickly, "I feel different here." Kyla's eyes widened slightly as she scanned the area, sensing the same energy that had drawn Elena in. "It's not just you," she murmured. "There's something powerful about this place." They approached the door more cautiously, listening for any signs of movement. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, and the door began to slide open slowly, revealing a narrow hallway beyond. Elena and Kayla exchanged a quick glance before stepping inside. The corridor was dimly lit by flickering lights embedded in the walls, casting eerie shadows that danced around them as they walked. The air was thick with an almost palpable tension, and Elena could feel her heartbeat accelerating with each step. Sensing something, Kyla whispered, her eyes narrowing. "There's a presence here." Elena stopped abruptly, her hand reaching out to steady herself against the wall. "I think I know where we are." Kyla turned to face her, her expression serious. "Where? We've been here before. Remember? Back when we first met, when you led me to this city. This is the place where we uncovered the truth about the prophecy and our connection to it," Elena said softly. Kyla's eyes widened in realization as she recalled the events of their previous visit. "It seems fate has brought us back here for a reason." Elena nodded, feeling an overwhelming sense of purpose. "We need to find out what they are hiding and why they've come back to this place. They continued down the corridor, the walls closing in around them as the path narrowed. The air grew colder and heavier, and the flickering lights cast deeper shadows that seemed to stretch out towards them. As they neared a door at the end of the hallway, Elena could hear muffled voices coming from within. Her heart raced with anticipation and fear. What would they find behind this door? Kyla's hand found Elena's, giving it a reassuring squeeze as she whispered, "We're almost there." Elena nodded, her grip tightening on Kyla's hand as they approached the door together. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever awaited them inside. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a room filled with an array of holographic devices and ancient artifacts. In the center of the room stood a group of figurines in sleek black uniforms and beings resembling Kyla, their scales shimmering in the light. They were engrossed in heated discussion, oblivious to Elena and Kyla's presence. Elena and Kayla exchanged a glance before moving stealthily into the room, their movements careful and silent. The figures at the center turned towards them, shock registering on their faces as they realized they had company. "What are you doing here?" one of the human leaders demanded, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "This is not your place." "We came for answers," Elena said firmly, stepping forward with Kala beside her. "We have a right to know what's happening." The leader hesitated, his gaze flickering over Elena and Kala before settling back on them. "Very well," he said reluctantly, "but be warned. What you see here could change everything." They led Elena and Kala to a central console where the holograms of maps and timelines were displayed. The screens showed a complex network of alliances and conflicts between the human world and the Dragon Clan, as well as timelines predicting future events. "What are these?" Elena asked, her voice tinged with curiosity and fear. "Predictions based on ancient texts," one of the dragon beings said. "They show different outcomes depending on actions taken now." Elena's eyes scanned the screens, her mind racing to comprehend the information. She saw timelines where human and dragon worlds coexisted peacefully, and others where conflict dominated everything. The realization hit her hard. Each decision they made now would shape the future of both worlds. "We can't let this happen," she said, turning towards the group. "We need to change the course of events." The leader nodded solemnly. "That is the challenge we face, but to do so, you must understand the true nature of your connection to the prophecy." Elena and Kayla exchanged a glance, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. They knew they had to face the truth, no matter how difficult it might be. Suddenly, the room began to shake violently as an alarm blared throughout the complex. The group turned towards a large window overlooking the city, where a dark storm cloud was rapidly approaching from the horizon. "We must act now," one of the dragon beings said urgently. "The time for change is at hand." As they rushed to prepare for the impending threat, Elena and Kyla felt the weight of their responsibilities heavy on their shoulders. They had come to this place seeking truth, but what they found was a fate intertwined with the very fabric of two worlds. Chapter 6: The Gathering Storm. The storm clouds loomed ominously over the ancient city, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch out towards Elena and Kayla like dark fingers reaching for them. As they moved through the complex, they could feel the tension rising, the air thick with an electric current of anticipation and dread. "We need to find a way to stop this," Elena said urgently, her voice barely above a whisper. "Whatever is happening, we can't let it come to pass." Kyla nodded, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of what might be coming. I sense an imbalance in the energy here. Something powerful is drawing near. They were guided towards a central chamber where a group of leaders from both human and dragon factions stood, their expressions grave and determined. The room was filled with a tense silence as they waited for the storm to arrive. "What are we supposed to do?" Elena asked, her voice shaking slightly with the realization of what was at stake. "We have to combine our strengths," one of the leaders said, his gaze meeting Kyla's. "The future depends on it." Elena looked towards Kyla, who nodded in agreement. They had come this far together, and now they needed to work as a team to face whatever lay ahead. As the storm clouds darkened the sky further, casting everything into an eerie twilight, Elena could feel the air around them crackling with power. The winds began to howl outside, shaking the building and sending debris flying through the open window. "This is it," one of the leaders said grimly. "The convergence begins." Elena's heart raced as she felt a connection between herself and Kyla grow stronger than ever before. They stood side by side, their bond serving as a shield against the oncoming chaos. "We must protect both worlds," Elena said, her voice steady but resolute. "We can't let this destroy everything." Kyla reached out, placing a hand on Elena's shoulder, giving it a reassuring "Uises, together, we will face whatever comes." The tension in the room was palpable as the figures gathered began to prepare for the impending battle. Holographic displays flickered with projections of possible outcomes, their lights casting long shadows over the worried faces of those present. Suddenly, the door to the chamber burst open, and a powerful wind swept through, carrying with it the scent of ozone and metal. A figure emerged from the storm, its form shrouded in dark cloaks adorned with symbols of ancient power. Its eyes glowed with an eerie blue light that pierced straight into Elena's soul. "It begins," the figure said in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "The time for balance has come." Elena felt a surge of energy coursing through her body, a connection to the figure that was both thrilling and terrifying. She could sense the immense power it wielded, a force that had been dormant for centuries, but now stirred with purpose. "Who are you?" Elena asked, her voice strong despite the fear that gripped her heart. "I am the Balance Keeper," the figure said, its eyes locking onto Elena's with a steady gaze. "It is my duty to ensure the equilibrium between worlds." Kyla stepped forward, placing herself protectively between Elena and the figure. "What do you want?" "Elena has a role to play," the figure said, its voice calm but commanding. "She must embrace her destiny." Elena felt a pull towards the figure, an irresistible force drawing her closer. She could feel the weight of the prophecy upon her shoulders, the knowledge that her actions would shape the future for generations to come. "I will do what needs to be done," Elena said, her voice steady, as she stepped forward towards the figure. "But I need your help." The figure nodded solemnly, extending a hand towards Elena. As their hands met, she felt a surge of energy flow through her, a connection that was both empowering and overwhelming. "You are stronger than you know," the figure said. "Together, we can restore the balance." Elena's mind raced with the realization of what this meant. She had to embrace her fate, accept the responsibility that came with it, and work alongside Kyla and others to ensure the survival of both worlds. "Let us begin then," Elena said, turning towards the group assembled in the chamber. "We need a plan." The leaders nodded, their expressions grim but determined. They knew that the stakes were higher than ever before, and that the fate of their worlds rested on the decisions they made now. As the storm grew more intense outside, the group began to discuss strategies, each voice contributing to the plan that would hopefully bring about change. Elena felt a sense of purpose as she worked alongside Kyla and others, knowing that every step they took was crucial. But even as they prepared for battle, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. There was a nagging doubt in the back of her mind, a whisper of an idea that refused to be silenced. "Are you sure this is the only way?" Elena asked, turning towards the leader who had first spoken to them. "We have no other choice," he said grimly. "The prophecy leaves us with few options." Elena's eyes met Kyla's, and she saw the same uncertainty reflected in her partner's gaze. They needed to be certain that they were making the right decisions, not just following what had been foretold. "We need to see it for ourselves," Elena said, determination building within her. "We can't rely solely on ancient texts." The leader looked surprised, but nodded in agreement. "Very well, time is short. We must act quickly." Elena and Kyla followed the group through a series of corridors and chambers, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the storm. The air grew colder and heavier with every passing moment, the tension palpable as they neared their destination. Finally, they reached a large chamber at the center of the complex, its walls lined with holographic displays showing real-time updates on the incoming storm. In the middle of the room stood a massive console, glowing with an array of symbols and interfaces. "Here we can observe the convergence," one of the leaders said, guiding Elena and Kyla towards the console. "This is where the future unfolds." As they approached the console, Elena's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the weight of responsibility settling upon her shoulders, the knowledge that every decision she made would have far-reaching consequences. Kayla reached out, her hand hovering over the interface as she tapped into the system. Holographic projections of timelines and events began to form around them, showing different outcomes based on various actions taken. "Look," Kyla said, pointing towards a timeline that diverged from the standard path. "There's an alternative here, an option not mentioned in the prophecy." Elena leaned closer, her eyes scanning the details of the alternate timeline. She could see a future where human and dragon worlds coexisted peacefully without the conflict predicted by the ancient texts. It was a glimmer of hope, a possibility that had been overlooked. "This can't be right," one of the leaders said skeptically. "The prophecy is clear." Elena felt a surge of conviction within her. "But it's also incomplete. We can't rely solely on what has been recorded. We need to explore all possibilities." The leader hesitated, his gaze shifting towards Kyla and then back to Elena. She could sense the tension in his shoulders as he weighed their words. "We will consider it," he said finally, "but we must act now." Elena nodded, her mind racing with ideas of how they could implement the changes necessary to shift the course of events. She knew that time was short and that every moment counted. As they began to formulate a plan, the storm outside intensified, its dark clouds rolling closer with an ominous presence. The winds howled through the chamber, sending papers and artifacts flying across the room. "We need to act quickly," Elena said urgently. "Every second counts." Kyla nodded in agreement, her eyes focused and determined as she worked alongside Elena to develop strategies that would bring about change. The two of them moved with a sense of purpose, their bond serving as a source of strength and resilience. But even as they worked, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. There was a deeper truth hidden beneath the surface of the prophecy, a reality that went beyond what had been recorded. She needed to uncover it before it was too late. "Let's go," Elena said, turning towards the exit. "We need to find out more." Kyla nodded, her eyes flickering with determination as they followed the leader through a series of hidden passages and chambers. The air grew colder and heavier, the tension building as they neared their destination. Finally, they arrived at an ancient chamber buried deep within the complex. Its walls were adorned with symbols that pulsed with an otherworldly light, and in the center stood a massive crystal structure that seemed to hum with energy. "This is where the truth lies," the leader said solemnly. "The core of our existence." Elena and Kyla stepped forward, their hands reaching out towards the crystal as they felt its power resonating within them. The crystal's glow intensified, casting long shadows over the chamber as they stood before it. "Here we can find the answers," Elena said, her voice steady but resolute. "But be prepared for what we might see." Kyla nodded, her eyes narrowing slightly as she sensed the weight of the truth hidden within the crystal. They knew that this moment was crucial, that the decisions they made now would shape the future for both worlds. As they approached the crystal, Elena felt a surge of energy flowing through her body, connecting her to the core of the prophecy. The symbols on the walls seemed to shift and change, revealing new insights and possibilities that had been hidden from view. "Elena," Kyla said softly, her hand reaching out to touch the crystal. "What do you see?" "I'm seeing a path we haven't considered before," Elena said, her voice filled with awe and wonder. "A way to change the course of events without relying solely on the prophecy." Kyla's eyes widened in realization as she felt the connection within the crystal, understanding the depth of what they had discovered. "This changes everything," Kyla said, her voice tinged with both fear and hope. "We can't let this pass unnoticed." Elena nodded, her heart pounding with the weight of their discovery. They knew that they had to act quickly, that every moment counted in ensuring the survival of both worlds. But as they turned towards the exit, ready to implement their new plan, a figure emerged from the shadows. Its form was shrouded in dark cloaks adorned with symbols of ancient power, its eyes glowing with an eerie blue light. "We can't let you proceed," the figure said in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "The balance must remain as it is." Elena's heart raced as she felt the connection to the figure intensify, a pull that was both thrilling and terrifying. She knew that this was the moment of truth, the time when their fate would be decided. "Why?" Elena asked, her voice steady but resolute. "What do you stand to lose?" "I serve the balance," the figure said, its gaze meeting Elena's. "Any deviation could lead to destruction." Elena felt a surge of determination within her. She knew that they had to embrace their destiny, accept the responsibility that came with it, and work alongside Kyla and others to ensure the survival of both worlds. "But we have found an alternative," Elena said, her voice firm but resolute, "one that allows for coexistence and peace." The figure hesitated, its gaze flickering over Kyla before returning to Elena's. She could sense the struggle within it, the conflict between duty and possibility. "You must decide," the figure said finally. "The fate of both worlds rests on your choice." Elena felt a surge of energy flowing through her body, connecting her to the core of the prophecy. The symbols on the walls seemed to shift and change, revealing new insights and possibilities that had been hidden from view. "We believe in this path," Elena said firmly, her eyes locking onto Kyla's. "Together, we will face whatever comes." Kyla nodded, her hand reaching out to grasp Elena's, giving it a reassuring squeeze. They knew that they were in this together, that their bond was the strength that would see them through. They knew that they were in this together, that their bond was the strength that would see them through. The alien woman and the dragon had come too far to let fear or uncertainty tear them apart. There was a world of possibility stretching out before them now, and it was as vast and intimidating as it was inviting. This was where the real challenge began. In the days that followed, they continued their journey, their bond deepening with every step. They faced trials, outage, their dark forests filled with unknown dangers, ancient ruins hiding secrets that could destroy or save them. Each obstacle they overcame brought them closer, their love a silent partnership. It was there in the quiet moments, when they rested by the fire at night, that they felt the full force of their connection. One evening, as the stars began to twinkle above them, she turned to him, her eyes reflecting the light of 1,000 distant suns. "Dragon," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath in the wind, "I am terrified of what lies ahead." For a moment, there was only the crackle of flames and the distant hoot of an owl. Then he reached out, his hand cupping her cheek, fingers brushing away tears. She didn't know she had been crying. "There is no future without you," he said, his voice soft but resolute. She leaned into him, a rare display of vulnerability. His touch was warm against her cool skin, and for a moment, it felt like the world itself held its breath. They were both warriors, forged in the fires of hardship and tested by every challenge they had faced thus far. Standing there by the firelight, with nothing but stars above them, they were just two beings who found solace in each other's presence. The journey was nearing its end, but their struggle was far from over. The final test loomed ahead, a portal to worlds beyond the known universe, a place where their bond would either ignite into something truly extraordinary or be consumed by the unknown vastness of what lay beyond. They walked towards it hand in hand, fingers entwined, a promise etched in the lines of their intertwined bodies. As they stepped through the portal, the world around them dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations. The alien woman squeezed his hand tightly, her grip like a lifeline. "Dragon," she said again, her voice clear and steady this time, "we are here." He nodded, his heart swelling with an emotion he couldn't quite name, but knew was more powerful than any fear or doubt. They emerged from the other side into a landscape unlike anything they had ever seen, endless fields of silver flowers that shimmered in the moonlight and rivers that flowed with stardust. Before them stood the ultimate trial, an ancient artifact glowing with an ethereal light. To activate it, their bond had to be complete, unbreakable, a singular force capable of creating new realities or altering old ones. She reached for him, her eyes filled with the same courage and fear that burned within his own heart. They faced it together, holding each other close. As they approached the artifact, the air hummed with energy, and their bond already strong, but now reaching across worlds and time, became a blazing light. The artifact shone brighter still, and for a moment, everything seemed to stretch out into infinity, the fabric of reality bending and warping around them. With no words exchanged, they joined their hands together over the glowing orb, their bond igniting like a spark in the dark. A wave of power surged through them, and the world spun around them in a dizzying dance. When it finally settled, they found themselves standing in a place that defied description, an interstellar garden, where every flower was made of starlight and every tree bore leaves shimmering with the colors of distant galaxies. In this place, she looked at him, her eyes reflecting the infinite expanse of new beginnings. "Dragon," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the peaceful hum of their surroundings, "we did it." He smiled, the expression reaching his eyes as well, and nodded. The look on his face was not just of pride or triumph, but of something deeper, a promise of a future built on love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond they had forged. They stood there for what felt like an eternity, simply breathing in the peace of this new world, letting their hearts find a rhythm that pulsed with each other's heartbeat. The sky was a tapestry of stars, the ground beneath them a bed of soft, luminous grass. And then, as if drawn by some unseen force, they closed the distance between them, their hands finding each other once more. They stood there, eyes locked, and she whispered just one word that encapsulated everything they had been through and everything they were becoming forever. He leaned in, and for a moment they shared a kiss that was as light as a touch of starlight, yet as solid as a promise. It was not a kiss to end all others, but one to set 1,000 new ones ablaze. In the silence that followed, she stepped back slightly, her gaze never leaving his. There was still so much to discover, so many stories to be written together in this endless universe. But for now, they simply shared a look, a moment of perfect stillness and understanding. "Dragon," she said again, her voice low and filled with emotion, "we are only just beginning." He nodded, his heart full of everything it had ever known and everything it was about to know. They were not just two souls who had met by chance on a perilous journey. They were the architects of their own destiny, creators of a reality built on love, courage, and an unbreakable bond. As they turned together, ready to face whatever wonders or challenges lay ahead, the night sky cleared, revealing a brilliant display of celestial beauty. It was as though the universe itself was celebrating their triumph, setting the stage for more adventures yet to unfold. And so, under the vast tapestry of stars, with the promise of infinity stretching out before them, they began walking again, ready for whatever came next, together. Forever, forever, the words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken promises and fears alike. She squeezed his hand tightly, her fingers trembling slightly, as they both stood at the edge of what could be their future or their downfall. "I know what you're thinking," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of distant waves crashing against the shore. "But I can't live without you, not anymore." He turned to face her fully, his eyes locking with hers in a moment of intense vulnerability. She could see the battle raging inside him, fear, hope, longing, and determination, all warring for supremacy. "I don't want to lose you either," he admitted finally, his voice rough with emotion. "But what if we fail? What if everything goes wrong?" She cupped his cheek gently, her thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped the corner of his eye. "Then we'll try again and again, as many times as it takes until we get it right." His grip on her hand tightened, and for a moment they stood there, suspended in time, their shared resolve to face whatever lay ahead binding them together more tightly than ever before. "Okay," he whispered back, his voice barely more than a breath now. "Let's do this." With that, they turned from the ocean's edge, ready to walk into the unknown, their hearts pounding with equal parts terror and exhilaration at the prospect of what lay ahead. The road was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but they were in it together. As they started walking back towards town, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the deserted beach. It was a stark reminder that time was not on their side, and every moment counted now more than ever. Yet in those final rays of sunlight, something else flickered, a glimmer of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, there was still a chance. Hand in hand, they ventured onward, the weight of their shared destiny bearing down on them, but also uplifting them in ways neither had imagined possible. The journey, ahead promised to be the ultimate test of their love and commitment, yet it also held within it the promise of a future that was worth fighting for, come what may. They walked into the night, their shadows lengthening with every step, but inside, their spirits burned brighter than ever before. For in choosing forever, they had chosen to face the world together, unafraid and unwavering, their hearts and souls entwined like never before. The first stars began to twinkle overhead, a celestial promise of infinite possibility. Below them, the ocean's rhythm continued, a constant reminder of the ebb and flow of life itself. As they pressed forward, each step bringing them closer to whatever awaited in the darkness ahead, their resolve strengthened with every breath. Together, they embraced the uncertainty of forever, ready to face whatever trials it might bring. Their journey was just beginning, but the foundation they had built together would sustain them through even the darkest of nights. And so they walked, hand in hand, into the future, a testament to the power of love and determination, unshaken by any obstacle that lay ahead.